All right, welcome back. Today I'm gonna be pressure washing everything on this truck. I'm gonna tilt the cab forward. I'm not gonna worry about the cab right now because I don't want to get rid of some of this lettering just yet. I want to make sure I have it recorded properly so that I can replicate it in the future if I decide to do so. Right now we're gonna talk about the frame a little bit because I've started working on the rust jacking. Now, frames are heat treated and you're not supposed to weld to them. I don't know when they started becoming heat treated, but the heat treating is so that they remain flexible and they don't crack under stress. Originally, when I was first looking at the frame of the truck, I was believing that it was completely rotted through everywhere, but come to find out it was actually the welding that caused a lot of this. And what I mean by that is, if you look here, these are the main welds that held the entire assembly to the frame of the vehicle, the truck. The weld is a hot spot which caused the metal to shrink. And with all the leverage put on the vehicle, or the truck, from all the vehicles that were stacked on top of it, these little stress points started to crack. You can see the crack is starting here, or it was starting. Now, that's not the entire story. This truck clearly has been through a salt road climate where it's seen lots of salt, road salt type conditions, possibly even sea salt from coming near beaches or anything like that. I don't know about like industrial applications from chemicals, but it's entirely possible. Doubtful, but it's possible. You can see in here, I've already started working on this. This was completely packed full of this iron. This iron oxide is what is breaking. It's the metal essentially breaking down. It's separating. And similar to trees with their roots and the turgor pressure, these little chips are different layers and striations of the metal that slowly build. They separate because the water is allowing the oxide, combined with the oxygen, H2O, is basically corroding the metal away, and it's causing an expansion point. If it was normally on the outside of the frame, you would see a sort of flaking similar to this, but there was a piece of metal clamped over this. That's why it's fully flaking. Normally you'll see it, rust on metal will just look like this, and eventually it will come to a point where it rots through the metal, the 1/8" steel or whatever you're doing, sheet metal. So what goes on with these double frames is they hold moisture inside between the inner insert and the outer insert, and that moisture slowly corrodes away, and you get something called rust jacking, which is this. And it is very bad for a frame. Look, right in the middle there, it's very thin. And the amount that this frame was rust jacked was very bad. This up here is not bad at all. As long as you have still good solid contact between the bolts, no bolts are shearing or breaking, which is very rare that that happens, but you don't have any splitting happening along the frame or any holes developing like this right here. That's bad. That's no-go. When you start to develop holes, that becomes a very big problem. Now, is it always an issue? Not necessarily. It depends on your application. For instance, this truck, the C800, was a tanker, so it's an N80 according to the serial. It had a huge, like 1,800 gallon tank on the back of it. It had a slant 6 for a water pump, and this truck was used by the Air Force to simply spray water. Don't know what for, but that was its main purpose. It was then loaned out to Texas A&M University for training. for their fire department or whatever training programs they have there. And if you look at the frame, there's a little bit of a wave going on. I've straightened most of it, but that waviness is from rust. There was some type of chemical in this at some point that basically rotted out the passenger side of the frame. And you can see right here, it actually rotted through. So that takes, you're basically not supposed to use that. Now I'm converting the truck to be used as a tractor, and it's going to pull very little weight compared to its full potential of what it could be used for, and therefore I don't need to worry about it entirely because it is a double frame. Now this over here, this is my D500. This is a 2-ton truck. This is a single frame, as in there's no outer frame rail cupping on the inner insert. You can see it's cold riveted or hot riveted together. There's no real welds anywhere on it. But this is nowhere near as rusty as those other frames, simply because there's nothing holding the water. Where you will see these rot out will be in here on the inside if they're not properly cleaned and maintained. Now if you look closely, there's some spots that need to be gone back over. Let's see, right here. This whole area, all this porosity. That is from the wood that separated the tank on this truck from the frame. So when you're on medium duty trucks and some heavy duty trucks, you will see that to clamp them together, and it was the same on that guy, to clamp them together they'll have a piece of wood, whether it's a 2x4 or, you know, piece of 1x, and it simply is just to isolate the frame add-on to the frame so you don't have rubbing causing rust problems early on. Now this is a 65, and look at the frame. That's with wood on it. Now I believe the frame or the wood is diesel treated, so it doesn't hold the moisture as well as like a, say, a normal piece of wood. And so you're kind of, it's a specialty application type thing. Whereas on this guy, there was no wood, most likely because of the strength being required and the rotational force put on the vehicle. Because you have to remember, every time that this truck is going down the road and the cars on a turn are going to want to go that way, they're going to want to pull that way. So you have to be able to maintain that. So one benefit of this truck was the air ride. It helped to level out the system. But when you start getting into it, well, how are you going to mount the frame? And to me, it does seem like a logical solution to weld it. I think it would have been better to have plates coming off of the car hauler frame that would have run alongside the frame rail, and they would have drilled holes wherever they needed, basically, to mount the frame. The frame rail on this 100% is more than likely the reason why this truck was taken off of the road fully. There's so much work that has to be done to it to get it back to its original form. It really ideally needs a new frame because of the amount of rot and the stress fractures going through it. But for right now, to just drive it, I'm gonna try and jerry rig it, and we'll see how that goes. But just to get it a little bit movable. Now for this next little bit of the video, I will be pressure washing the rest of the truck. Obviously the cab is tilted, and it's giving me good opportunity to pressure wash everything that needs to be pressure washed, specifically the frame, the rear ends, and the engine bay. That's after the first round of pressure washing, just to get the big stuff. Looks like I need to rinse one more time. I don't know why I walked around this side. This is the long way. A lot of this stuff ain't wanting to break free a whole lot, so I'm gonna spray some degreaser on it and close it down. This has all been soaking in degreaser for almost a week and a half now, and that's how much came off, so it definitely needs a second round. But a lot of this came up pretty clean. I'm pretty impressed with a lot of it. I'm surprised that the yellow paint is still intact like it is. Definitely a lot of mold on her. So I'm gonna spray it down one more time and then close it and let it sit. I'm sure I got water in the cab. Not really a big concern to me right now. Yeah, you can see it sprayed up some through that hole. But overall it came out pretty well. This is gonna have to be pulled off and actually scrubbed. Takes a lot of pressure from each angle, so I'm not able to really get it very well. But overall, a lot of junk came off. A lot of places where I thought there was a lot of rust, there's really not. So that's good. Yeah, see, just crap getting thrown everywhere. So I'm gonna spray her down and then we'll begin working on the back end. Just finished pressure washing. Just getting a lot of big stuff off. It's a lot different looking already with that. There's a couple spots I really missed and I should have gotten, but this is a good first run through. It's not going to be fun doing the undercarriage. So obviously I haven't done the cab yet because I'm trying to protect this as much as I can for now. I will eventually wash it and probably get it off. I'd like to go through with this and put some trace paper on it so I get the exact script, if you will. These tires came out pretty good. They were pretty dirty. So it looks like we got some 390 years. I knew it was something like that. 309, 307, but now I see it directly. It says 3.90. So that's good. I know the exact gearing on the rear ends now. They're also 38,000 rears. I found the stampings on that. So some pretty good progress. A lot of this stuff for these old trucks is just time and cleaning. And then a whole lot of money at a certain point when it's ready to actually start restoring it. But there's a lot of things you can do to save yourself money if you use your head just a little bit instead of buying a bunch of brand new parts and throwing it on it. So I'm gonna wrap it up on this one. Yeah, I guess the next step is to roll it back and start working on it. But I also have a lot of other stuff that I'm doing, so I don't know how long this process will take. I don't have like a deadline, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully at some point I'll get into working on the motor. I gotta finish the stack. Looks like this 90 right here is gonna have to be replaced because it's completely rotted out. Man, it's a cool truck. It's come a long way already. So I can't wait for what else is in store for this. Let me know your thoughts, your feelings down in the description, or not the dang description, the comments. If you have any ideas of what I should do with it that aren't crazy out there, because I generally like keeping things close to original. Let me know if you want to see something specific. If you have questions about anything, also put that down in the comments. And I will see you next time. Maybe working on this guy, don't know. We'll see. All right, see you next time.